Hi. The following is a social studies lesson that I would teach to a fourth grade class. I would begin with a slideshow. The topic would be slavery in America, and as I stated before, it is appropriate for a fourth grade level. The themes are listed here. My standards are listed here, and my objectives for this lesson would be to identify what slavery was like in early America, and to analyze and evaluate the life of historical figures. The way I would begin my lesson is with a motivational question or a simple conversation with my class. Imagine that one day you and your family are just enjoying a regular day. Suddenly, strangers take you away against your wishes to a faraway land to never return again or to see your family again. Obviously, this would elicit some type of emotion and would begin conversation with the class, and I can begin my lesson. First, I would begin by showing my students what slavery was. On the side, there are brief descriptions of what they were treated like, where they were brought from, and just some pictures of basically their daily lifestyle. To continue, I would also show them the types of labor that they endured. As it says here, basically they were sold as property against amongst landowners. Most were enslaved to work in southern states and care for the land. They worked hard to maintain their owners' plantations and farms, and so forth. What I'm basically doing is just creating some background for the students to be able to understand what a slave was, what their duties were, who brought them here, and why they were brought here. Again, I would continue by giving them more facts, the life of the slave, and just their day-to-day types of living circumstances. Then I would ask the students, how does this make you feel? Do you think this was right? Is it morally correct? What would you do? Do you believe superheroes can be real people, real life people? And that's when I would introduce Rufus King. Now, the purpose of this whole lesson would be to take them on a field trip, to actually take them to the museum with some of this background information on slaves, and to get them sort of going and understanding that normal people, regular people like you and I, like themselves, can also stand up for something. So once we're at the museum, this is something that the students will gather by walking around and taking notes. These are just some facts on Rufus King, who he was, how he briefly served in the Revolutionary War. He was also a politician, and just basically, the things that he did in his lifetime. Some of the important exhibits that we would really focus on would be his contribution to the Constitution, how he believed in standing up against slavery. He was part of the signing, and this is actually a document at the museum, and it shows his signature. Another thing that we would investigate further into would be a very important speech that he did. And of course, we would get into that, how in the top paragraph he is just very apologetic about speaking to the president and having to say something, because obviously he was very respectful. And then down here it talks about how he just didn't believe in slavery and how he stood up for it. All of this is evoking clearly emotions and thought with the students. Again, the purpose is to help them see, that something is wrong. It's okay to stand up for something, and that, for instance, on the next one, how sometimes speaking up for something is not going to always make people happy. There was death threats against Mr. Rufus King, But I know some of the questions that might come from this would be, was he assassinated? Was he killed? No, he was not. So at the bottom is just some more information on him just dying from natural causes and so forth. But the purpose of this is to basically show them that even though you're not making everybody happy by speaking up, you can still live a normal life. Sometimes you have to stand up for something, and you're sometimes going to stand alone. Another thing we would look at the museum would be how his legacy continued with his son, John King. John King also was a very popular politician in New York, and even though his dad did not get to see the end of slavery, his son did. And this was something that he instilled in him, and from the 3 children that Rufus King did have, John King continued the legacy, and he saw the day that slavery actually ended. Of course, back at the classroom, we would begin a fantastic activity. I would be calling all artists, writers, and actors. Now, this is how I would break up this activity for the group after they've come back with their information and they learned all about Rufus King and who John King was, and learning all about slavery, and basically getting an understanding of what is morally correct and what it means to stand up for something. So this is a fun activity I would do getting back to the classroom. As I said before, it requires artists, writers, and actors. So each group will be given a name of other historical heroes that stood up for equality. And if we look at the bottom, these are some of the names that I've just chosen. It says each group will be given a name of other historical heroes that stood up for equality. On day 1, we would compare and contrast the life and works of their hero with those of Rufus King. So that would be a writing activity for the class, and each group would have their individual historical hero, and they would compare and contrast that person's life with the life of Rufus King. Day 2, they would draw a picture of their hero, and they would add a famous quote or speech given by the hero. So, like for instance, Martin Luther King, he had the "I Have a Dream" speech. We have Abraham Lincoln, who had the Gettysburg Address, and so forth. So this is an opportunity to put some art and something, a famous quote or speech in their art piece. And then on day 3 and 4, I would have the students create a script and act out a meaningful moment in their hero's life that made him or her memorable. Again, going back to those sample moments like Abraham Lincoln's Gettysburg Address, or the "I Have a Dream" speech from Martin Luther King, or for instance with Harriet Tubman, the whole act of helping slaves through the Underground Railroad and so forth. I would have students create a script, something pretty brief, but that actually depicted what these people did that was so memorable in their life. So, they love that. And last but not least, as an extension or a homework assignment, I would ask the students if they have ever been a superhero. So I would have them write a homework assignment, and these would be the guiding questions to help them think of what they would write. So think about the following guiding questions to help you along. Have you ever stood up for something? Perhaps for a friend who is being bullied or picked on? Explain why you think it was important to do so, or say what you felt about it. Does this make you or a real-life superhero? How did it help others? Why should we help others? How does it feel to have or not have the support from others? So this gives, again, a student an idea and an understanding that you can be a normal person, and if you stand up for something, you can also be a real-life superhero. And that would conclude my lesson on slavery and studying historical figures and bringing it back to the classroom and doing something fun. Thank you.